Yeah, we have some like time zone issues. We just have people like scattered all over the place. I'm not sure how many people are going to show up today. That's why I wanted to also record it. Just for people who, it's really late for them or really early for them. Hi, Tyrone. Yeah, thanks for doing this today, Matt. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Excited to show folks around.
Yeah, so just just a little bit of context. So we are a group of SEO copywriters. So obviously Frase is, a great tool for us, not just for optimizing our content, because we all know that the kind of regular turn the green faces on your screen sort of advice is a bit more outdated now, and we need kind of more sophisticated tools like Frase. But also just like to speed up content production as well. So yeah, really excited for the walkthrough, especially after the big release of all the new features. So yeah, just if you could walk us through essentially what your kind of go-to content production workflow would be in Frase, that would be awesome. If you want, we can I can give you like a example keyword, and then from there you can take it away.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to use, I always use my dog as an example in this, because I had a lot of problems with my dog, and I kind of use that as an illustration of like the search journey. So one keyword we can do is how to train a reactive dog. So if we've done our keyword research, I'm going to put it in the chat there. We've done our keyword research. We say, okay, I'm going to write an article about how to train a reactive dog. How do I use Frase to build out that brief, to know what I have to include and optimize that content and make the process easier and faster?
All right. Yeah, that's great. I'm going to, can you enable screen sharing?
Oh, yeah, sure. There you go.
How to train a reactive dog. Okay. All right, so can you see my screen now?
I can see your screen, yeah.
All right, so welcome to Frase. For those of you that haven't seen the tool, maybe just before I dive in, we can hit on the really high level stuff. And
perfect.
To put it simply, Frase is an AI-powered content tool that helps SEOs and content creators research, write, and optimize better SEO content faster. Fundamentally, that's what we do. What we're going to do today, I think, is talk about not only how to use Frase to generate net new content faster, but also we're going to talk about how to optimize a draft that you're working on, or even optimize an existing URL, otherwise known as a content refresh. So I'm going to be talking about both of those workflows. So today, let's just start with creating net new content. And the place that I'm going to start today, I just minimize this. The place I want to start today is in our documents tool. Now we've got all sorts of different features and tools. For the sake of time, I'm going to be just showing you sort of what I think you should focus on first. So we're going to go to documents, we'll create a new document. And a Frase document is sort of like the building blocks of Frase. And this is where you'll do all of your content creation, content optimization. So it'll ask us to select a workflow, so create new content or optimize existing content. As I mentioned, we'll start here. And then the target search query is going to be exactly what that keyword was. So how to train a reactive dog. The target search query is literally the Google search term we want to rank for, right? And I'll talk about how this is going to work in a second. Couple things, since it sounds like everyone is, the folks on this call are from all over the world. We'll want to go to advanced settings. If you're not in the United States, or rather I should say, if you're trying to rank outside of the United States, you'll want to select your country that you're trying to rank in. So if you're in the UK or Ireland or whatever, Australia, you'll want to select that country. If you want to rank in the United States primarily, you can just leave it like that. And then we also support a bunch of languages. Everything I'm about to do works in any one of these languages. So just keep that in mind. From here, we'll click Create Document, and Frase will literally Google search this term. It will return the top 20 results. It will analyze them, summarize them, and compile an ocean of research over here on the right side menu. So that's what this is doing right now. Now, there's a few different places to get started inside Frase. We can either create like a very technical content brief, or we can jump to creating an outline and generating a draft off that outline. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to show you a couple things about the content briefing side, and then we'll create an outline and actually generate the draft. Lots of our customers are agencies or freelancers, and they work with either clients that require content briefs created for them, or they work with other freelancers and they send them those freelancers content briefs and they get a draft from them. And so there's a couple ways to create content briefs quickly inside Frase. The first is with a template. And so you can either create a custom template if you have one, or you could use one of Phrase's pre-made templates. This is just a nice way to store templates inside of Frase, right? Maybe I want to go in here and use this pillar page content plan. Boom, I've got a one-click, nice little template, totally empty, obviously, but it's now inside the editor. And from here, what I would do is I'd use this research tab, you see this here, to quickly fill this thing out. And what we've got is we've got comparisons to those top 20 articles for word count, headers, links, and images. But more importantly, perhaps we have the top results for this target search query. Spirit dog training ranking #1, reactive dog training tips to help your dog get better, right? And you can see a little outline of their content. And so this is really valuable because it's going to prevent us from needing to go and spend 3 hours clicking around Google in order to understand the key concepts and topics and ideas that my competitors are including in their content. But more importantly, perhaps I can come in here and I can say, hey, let's use this as the H1. See this little bubble here? I'm going to click on that and boom, it'll add to the content brief. So this is a really effective tool. I can add a little research snippet there as well. This is an effective tool to go through and quickly create a content brief about any topic using, right, not just random information, but the best research on the internet for my target query. Maybe I would want to come down here. We've got a whole questions tool. This will show you all the questions your search competitors are asking and answering their content. Really good for like FAQ sections, or if you're trying to rank for a featured snippet. So maybe I would want to add this here. And what's the answer to this question? Boom, one-click annotation right inside the editor. So you get the idea, really easy to fill this thing out. When you're done, you can share this with a freelancer. We've got 2 shareable links, read only, which is great for freelancers if you don't want them messing with your brief, or a full document, which just looks exactly like a Frase document, frankly. And this gives your freelancer the ability to access all of the research Frase provides. The content brief we just created together, or at least the start of the content brief we just created together, they can even switch over to the My Content tab and just start writing right inside the tool. So that is the first way to create a content brief. The second way, and the faster way, or I should say more automated way, oops, is with something that we call an automatic brief. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to ask for the sections we want to include, and then it's going to use those top 20 results for our target query to compile, using AI to compile a content brief for us in about 6 seconds. So there it goes. We've got an overview section, goal, rank on first page, whatever. Target word count, target headings. People also ask section, which a lot of people use as an outline. SERP analysis, top 20 overall topics, topics grouped by cluster, training related topics, behavior related topics, right? Suggested headers, suggested questions, statistics, and if we wanted, we could include hyperlinks in here as well, links that are being linked out to by our search competitors. So this is a really effective way to go about creating content briefs really quickly. So I highly recommend checking this out. But now what I want to talk about is actually what we would do if we were doing a draft ourselves. So that what I just talked about is sort of the workflow you would use if you have a freelancer you're working with who's doing the drafting for you, right? You generate a content brief, you select the research you want to include, you send a content brief to your writer, and they're off to the races. Now, if you're doing the writing yourself, what I'd probably recommend is creating an outline inside Frase and then turning that into a draft. And the way that you would do that, I'm just going to click the outline button over here. So now we're in the outline menu. And so what Frase is doing is it's showing me something. Let me just clear this out. It's showing me something very similar to what we were looking at on the research page. It's all the top 20 results broken down by the headers, including in their content. So what I would do in this case, and you can filter different header types as well. But what I would do is I would look through this, and I would say something like, okay, what's the H1? Maybe I want to talk about reactive dogs versus aggressive dogs. Okay, I'm going to click on that, and we're going to use that as the H1. You can see it just added itself to my little outline builder over here. Maybe we want to talk about reactive dogs are uncomfortable. That's going to be the H2. Helping a reactive dog find calm. Let's turn that into an H3. What we can do now to edit this, just click the little gear icon, turn that into an H3. We can even change this text if we want, and then save that. And then maybe we'll add another H2. How about why do dogs become reactive? We'll use that as an H2. Actually, let's add one more H3. How about how can I train my reactive dog? We'll turn that into H3. So obviously you'd want to build this out a little bit more. We're just going to keep it short for the sake of the example. But you can see we've got a nice little outline coming together. We can add custom headers if we want as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that outline. And we've got a couple options from here. We can either just paste this outline right into the editor and we're off to the races. We can start writing. And of course, the formatting will be respected. So you got the H1, the H2, the H3, H2, and H3, different sizes, different boldnesses. Or if you want to get even more advanced, what we can do is really dig into AI in order to help us generate a first draft about this topic. And in order to do that, we will do two sort of steps of AI content generation in order to ensure that all of the content our robot generates is really unique and really high quality. And so the first step is to summarize the results of our competitors. So what Frase is doing now is it's analyzing those sections, those headers that we selected from the outline, and it's going to automatically generate little summaries of that content. And we're going to use those summaries and then turn them into a first draft that will be generated for us in about 60 seconds. And of course, that draft will be based on the outline we selected, right? And so this generally will take anywhere between like 45 and 90 seconds, maybe, depending on how long your outline is. But as you can see, Frase is essentially just going through those headers that we selected and generating little summaries based on my SERP competitors' content. And so this is going to be really valuable, frankly, not only for first draft generation. I could easily also just paste these summaries into the editor. That's a great content brief as well, right? Where you've got headers and summaries of the content that needs to be included. You send that off to a writer and they're in really good shape. So I'll show you how to do that in about 15 seconds or so as well. But any questions? Or I guess we'll save questions for the end. That's fine. And maybe while we're waiting, just one quick thing. So the AI writer, which we're about to really dig in here, is not meant to replace you, the human writer, right? This is not going to do your job for you. So I think it's really important to approach this process with level expectations, right? The AI writer needs to be reviewed, needs to be fact-checked. It needs to have your client's tone of voice added to it. It needs to have your unique perspective added to it. It's not going to just generate something that you should then click publish on, right? That's not its role. Its role is to help you generate unique, high quality content faster. And the way it's going to do that is it's going to give you these summaries to go off of. And here we are. So it's finished generating these summaries, like I mentioned. You can paste all of them into the editor. So there we go. I'm going to get rid of that. Or you've got lots of different options, summary by summary. We can actually remove a summary if we don't like it. We can re-summarize a specific section if we want the AI writer to essentially like try again, right? If we don't like the summaries it's come up with. We can even expand a given summary and Frase will expand upon that existing summary. And so what we can do here is either, like I mentioned, paste it into the article and start writing, or we can use an AI generated first draft. So I'm going to click on that and Frase will generate this in about 25 seconds. And this is a good opportunity for me to go back and talk about sort of what this writer is doing right now. This robot, this AI writer, is combining a massive language model where it's read about 15% of the internet. And so our robot knows more about reactive dogs than any human on the planet, right? And it's using that brain in order to write this content. But it's also using the summarizations of the top SERP performers. So it's not just pulling things out of thin air, it's basing its content off of summarizations of the best content on the internet. And that's why this is going to be a really good start. And so what I would always say about these is, like I mentioned, you're not just going to click post here, but what you are going to have is you're going to have a first draft that you can work with. And everyone knows, everyone on this call knows that it's a lot easier to rework something that's already on the page than to create a first draft from a blank page, right? And so what we're going to do is just come through here. We're going to review this. We're going to make sure it reads well. We're going to make sure everything's accurate. Maybe we would want to, remove a paragraph or add a paragraph or whatever. But the point is, right, that this is going to help you get a workable draft down on paper much faster than if you were just, clicking through Google to identify, an article or, that has quality content, copying and pasting snippets from a Word document or a Google document or whatever, and then sort of going from there, building it yourself. This is going to get you started much faster. And so what I'd recommend at this point is, of course, coming through, maybe adding some things to it. Maybe we could come in here, we can go to the research tool. Maybe we would want to say, let's add, what are the most reactive and aggressive dog breeds? Let's imagine we want to include a section about that. What I can then do is open this up. You see this Write About This button. We can click on that, and Phrase's AI writer will now write a completely unique topic about the most aggressive or reactive dog breed. So now I've just added a new section to my draft, right? So the Write About This button is a really nice way to sort of customize the net new content that you're generating for your draft. So that's the process I would go through. You can use the AI writer. You can just copy and paste specific headers in here. Maybe we would want to add this header, and we can turn this into an H2. Of course, all this stuff is totally formattable, whatever. And so that's the process I would go to sort of slowly build out your draft. Now, once you have your draft, it's time to optimize that. So I'm going to switch over to the optimize tool over here. And what this will do is it will compare my article to the top 20 results for the target search query. And it will essentially give us a grade. So this is our grade right here. We're at a 7% topic score. Our average competitors are at a 19% topic score. So there's actually a lot of opportunity for this search query. The content ranking for this query is not very good. Our content's not very good at all. So the first thing we'd want to do is build this thing out and fill this gap, right? Go from 7% to 19%. The higher you can jack up this score, the better your content is going to be when compared to your competitors. And the good news is that we have, and so most of you have probably seen something like this before. This is a pretty typical topic scoring algorithm. It's going to look at the content in our or the topics and keywords in our content and compare the topics and keywords to our competitors' content. So reactive behavior, for example, we mentioned this topic 2 times. Our average competitor is mentioning it 3 times. Watch what happens when I go and add this in here. Oops. So it updates in real time. You see that? And our topic score is also improved in real time. Maybe we want to, so when we look at all this gray, we don't mention leash reactivity at all. 0 times. Our competitors are mentioning an average of 1 time. There we go, updated in real time. Our topic score also continues to improve. So this is a really effective way to go about, making sure your content is well optimized. Nice way to visualize this is with this topic highlighting tool. I can see all of the topics inside my competitors and where I sort of stand in their the number of mentions. So everything that's green. You're in good shape. You don't need to mention treat anymore in this case. German Shepherds, though, we only mention once. Our average competitors are mentioning it 3 times. So you get the idea, right? A couple other things. If you don't know what leash reactivity is, which I truly don't, what I can do is actually click on that topic, and Frase will show me all of the mentions of leash reactivity in my competitors' content. So I can instantly get some research snippets. Whoops, let's put this down here. So I can instantly get some snippets from my competitors. These are all cited, of course, inside my editor. And then I can go about rewriting this with the AI writer. We've got a really neat rewriter in here. We can rewrite this content one sentence at a time. Or we can just we can quote this. We can just write about it from our brain, whatever. Lots of opportunities here. We've also got different topic types in here. So we've got top topics. These are the most commonly mentioned topics. Obviously, our coverage here is much better than in long tail topics where we were a second ago. We can look at the topics mentioned by my competitors' headers, the topics mentioned by my competitors' titles. We can even group topics into clusters. This is really going to give us a really high level understanding of the major gaps in our competitors' content. So we've got no mention of muzzle related topics, right? And Frase is saying that's a big gap in this content. We've got no mention of conditioning related topics. We've got no mention of experience related topics. So there's a lot of major gaps in this content that I'd want to fill before I publish this content. But luckily, Frase is giving me the blueprint, right? The information that I need in order to accomplish that objective. So once you've gotten this score, at least above your competitor's score, preferably as high as you can get it, you can be confident that when you publish it, it will be SEO strong right out of the gate. Because the worst thing is when you spend a bunch of time creating a piece of content and it doesn't rank at all, right? It just feels like it's wasted time. So Frase is going to help you avoid that dilemma. So that's a little bit about creating net new content with Frase. As I promised, I want to shift gears now and talk about refreshing existing content. And so there's a couple ways you can go about this. I'm just going to Google the search term and pull up an article, and we're just going to pretend like we're optimizing it together. So how to train a reactive dog. And we'll just pull the first example we see and pretend like we're optimizing it. Okay. All right, so let's copy this URL, right? And then what I'm going to show you now is actually something that's brand new. It's called an article rewriter. And so I'm going to go to AI tools over here on the left side menu. I'm going to click article rewriter, and we're going to throw this URL in here. And what Frase will do is it will import this URL from the internet, and it will help us automatically rewrite it. And that's really the first step, right, to optimizing or refreshing an existing content that's already published. This will take a few seconds, but it should start processing this. Sometimes it needs to wake up. A second.
Just while we're waiting for that, just Tarun here has a question just about
Sure.
how accurate is the AI writer. So he's used Jasper, and he just found that the content that was generated by it was way off. So I guess, I mean, how would accuracy kind of be measured by the AI writer? For me, I kind of always see it as like, it's something that kind of help me get over that blank slate, rather than like you mentioned, to replace an actual like writer and people with insight and like insider knowledge. So yeah, I mean, how accurate would you say that the AI writer is, and how would you kind of think about that?
Yeah, good question. So, well, I'll answer this question in two parts. The first part is how Frase is different from Jasper, and the second part is about sort of expectation setting when using any AI writer, not just Frases or Jaspers, but any AI writer in the world. So the first part is that Frase uses a different language model than Jasper. There's lots of different advantages to that. It's more up to date. So Jasper's only goes up to 2019. It doesn't have any off-topic, topics. So if you want to write about prescription drugs, for example, you can't do that with Jasper. Or if you want to write about violence or something like that, Jasper won't generate content about those topics. And then the last thing is it's a lot cheaper than Jasper's model, even though it's definitely higher quality. So we're able to offer packages with unlimited access to our AI writer, and Jasper's not able to do that. That's the first answer to your question. So we see higher results, not just because the language model is different, but also because Frase is using the SERP to generate content off our search competitors topics, right? And so it's not just using a language model like Jasper does. Like I showed you, it's actually summarizing the SERP and then using that as the inputs, as the prompts to generate content. So you see higher quality content as a result there as well. That's the first part of your question. The second part of the question is that generally speaking, when people are disappointed with AI writers, and not just phrases, Copysmith, Copy AI, Jasper, there's a bunch of them out there. When you're disappointed with the output of an AI writer, it's usually because your expectations for that AI writer are off. And what I mean by that is you need to approach an AI writer with the understanding that it's not going to be as good at writing as you are, period. Not yet, maybe in a few years it will be. But right now, there is no technology in the world that where a robot can write as well as a human. Just doesn't exist. What the AI writer can do is it can help assist you in your quest to create unique content of your own, helps you come up with ideas, helps you get over writer's block, helps you get ideas down on paper. You should absolutely always fact check an AI writer. You should add your unique perspective. You should add your client's tone of voice. These are non-negotiable. If you approach an AI writer and think to yourself, this is going to generate a draft for me and I'm just going to click publish, you're going to be sorely, sorely disappointed. And again, that's for any AI writer on the market. So it's really important that you set your expectations correctly. The AI writer is going to go off the rails sometimes, and any AI writer is going to go off the rails. And so you need to bake that into your expectations. It's going to come up with potentially wacky representations of facts, and that's why it's important to always fact check AI writers. But if you're using the AI writer correctly, using high quality inputs, then you can minimize the number of times it sort of goes wacky and sort of goes off the rails. And that's sort of what we're talking about today, how to ensure that you're using the SERP as, for inputs, that you're doing, all this stuff correctly. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Okay, great. Yeah, good question. And I think it's important. I think it's an important question because a lot of times, not just, we hear this from Jasper customers, we hear this from everyone. They say, this AI writer doesn't generate new content. They come to Frase thinking that, Frase is going to be the answer to their prayers. And is it a little bit better? Yes, it's a little bit better, but it's not 20 times better. It's marginally better. The key is knowing how to use it correctly and having correct expectations, for sure. So anyway, here we are almost done with Frase is rewriting this content. And the way that this is working is it has compared our content on over here. And again, this is this article right over here. And it's broken this content into little blocks, right? So you can see the headers here, you can see paragraphs here, whatever. And then Frase will go and it will rewrite this one block at a time. And so in some cases, usually for headers, it will leave them alone, but for long form paragraphs, it will totally rewrite them. And so, for example, reactive dog training tips to help your dog get better. Here's Phrase's version, and this is called a similarity score. So Frase is saying that this is 100% similar. And you'll see this happen for headers, right? When you have like 5 words in a header, there's not really a way to rewrite that content in a way that will make sense. And so that's intentional. Frase would rather just not, produce something that's 100% similar than produce something that's nonsensical, right? But when you get to something that's longer, like this paragraph, you can see that Frase has completely written this, and the similarity score is only 16%. That means that only 16% of the words in this article, or I'm sorry, in this snippet, are the same as its corresponding snippet. Now, if you don't like this summary, you can edit it and just come in here and change, whatever you want. You can add stuff, you can remove stuff, whatever. Or you can just re-summarize it. And Frase will rewrite the snippet one snippet at a time.
I actually like how the Frase snippet is like more positive than the original article. Having dogs could be a bird, and this is like, they're great companions. Sometimes they have problems. Sure. It's a lot more positive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it'll always be more positive, but it's nice to see in this example that it is. But yeah, the important thing is, the AI writer is just helping us do our job a lot faster here. Everyone knows that if you need to refresh content, you're going to have to do a lot of rewriting, and Frase is just helping us do this a lot faster. So you can easily come through here and remove things that you don't like, regenerate stuff that you want to tweak, or just edit something that you want to add to or remove from. And then when you're done with this, you can preview this. And here's our rewritten article. It's sort of, drafted right here for us. We can close the preview and save it into a phrase document, which was targeted search query.
How to train a reactive dog.
Oops. And here's our nice little rewritten article right inside the editor. So from here, what I'd recommend is probably going back to the optimize tool, right? And ensuring that this new content is topically relevant to our target search query. And so I'm just curious to see what our optimization score is here. Let's wait for Frase to finish analyzing the SERP.
And I always just kind of tell people as well, like the idea of, optimizing for these, I mean, kind of like long tail keywords, related terms, LSI keywords, whatever, term people want to use, is that you're really kind of showing how relevant the article is to that search query. Like you should be mentioning leash reactivity. You should be mentioning, you can't talk about this topic and not talk about, leash reactivity and things like that. So it's making sure that that you are actually covering it in depth and with enough information that actually makes it valuable, and also that you're showing search engines that you're doing that as well.
Right. And that's really the name of the game, right? When we're talking about SEO, it's about creating content that's topically relevant to the target query, and that's what Frase is doing here. But that's obviously, it's necessary but not sufficient, right? As any of you on this call know, there's lots of technical SEO factors that go into play too, domain authority, backlinking, all that stuff. Those are things that Frase does not focus on yet. And actually, this is an important point. A lot of people sort of think that Frase will be able to replace their keyword research tool. I don't recommend that. Most of our customers use a keyword research tool in tandem with Frase, right? They really they're designed to complement each other really well. And I think the best indicator of that is that SEMrush, if you don't know, SEMrush is it's the biggest keyword research tool in the world. Their SEO team, so the team responsible for creating content for SEMrush's website, they're Frase customers. So they use SEMrush, obviously, as a keyword research tool, and they use Frase to help speed up their creation and optimization process. And so those things work really well together. Ahrefs, Ubersuggest, whatever. Any keyword research tool is going to pair really well with Frase. So I highly recommend that. So here we are in optimizing content, right? So Frase is going to do the same thing. Here's our topic score. Here's our competitor's topic score. So what we would want to do in this case, right, is go through here and ensure that we are mentioning positive experience or leash reactivity, which we don't mention at all in this content. Training session, we're in good shape, et cetera, et cetera. So that is sort of my recommended workflow for those two things: creating net new content and refreshing existing content. Both are obviously extremely important workflows to get the hang of. And that's more or less a crash course. Let's turn over to questions if folks have any. Let's see, there's some in the chat. How accurate is AI writer? Copy AI. Oh, good. Yeah. Don't use the copy AI blindly. Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to unmute.
Yeah. Any questions? Happy to help. Oh, good. I'm glad it was informative.
Okay. Well, if no one has any more questions,
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Hi, Miles, Tarun again.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Just a quick question. On the article that you repurposed, or rather updated, can you score what the actual article was? Right now,
you mean this article?
Yeah. Is it a way to see okay, what the score was this on Frase versus what
sure, yeah. Right. So what we would do that's a good question. So I'm gonna remove this rewritten article. We can always get this later in the article rewriter. So what you can do then is when you're creating a new document, right? We saw this at the beginning, but we sort of skipped by it. You see the optimize existing content option. What we would do is we would just pull this URL, right? We would import the URL and add the target search query. And what Frase is going to do is it's going to process that specific URL, the existing URL, and it's going to help us optimize that. So we'll just import this, and Frase will analyze that. And again, right now, Frase is comparing this article, and you can see all of the formatting and whatnot has been honored inside Frase. And it's going to compare this content to the top 20 results for our target search query. And it's going to give us an optimization score. And that is going to help us. If you don't want to rewrite an entire article when you are optimizing it, this can be a really effective way to go about that. So the original was at a 19% topic score, still below the average competitor. So the existing website must have a great domain authority.
Oh, they do. They do. They are. Yeah.
Oh, they do.
I actually have that course that they're promoting in there.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, they need Frase in order to bulk up their content and rank even better.
Yeah. Check the #1 spot.
Right. And so actually, when you're optimizing like an existing article like this, there's a couple things you can do. You see the all scores option here. If you were to click on this, you can actually see your search competitor score. So K9 of mine looks like they may even be a Frase customer because they've got a 100% Frase topic score. So Frase is saying this is the best content on the internet for this target search query, but because their domain authority isn't as good as spiritdogtraining.com, they're ranking number 7, right? But they certainly would be ranking lower if their content wasn't this topically relevant. And what you can also do, and compare your content to your competitors. So you could say something like, you know what, my goal is to create content that's better than my main competitor, which is stay.com, right? So I'm going to design content that's at least at a 29% topic score. That's my target now. And you can even use this neat little heat map. This will show you all of the topics your search competitors were mentioning compared to the content that you imported, right? So here is k9ofmine.com. Looks like they don't mention positive experience at all. They don't mention training plan at all. They don't mention bad experience at all, right? So these could be opportunities for me to exploit the weaknesses in the topical weaknesses in their content. Looks like Spirit Dog Training has a ton of gaps. So Frase is doing a nice job sort of identifying everywhere that you could potentially rank for these target queries. And these are long tail. Here's the top topics. So looks like this is much more competitive for top topics, but there's lots of opportunity to design content for this search query and rank for longer tail topics. So yeah, that's a little bit more of an advanced tip, but hopefully that answers your question.
I love that for working on like refreshes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with a client at the moment, and there's like so many search queries where we're like, we need to smash like such and such competitor. That's the real focus, because of the other people on the SERP, they're not necessarily, they're not always losing business then, but there's like one company where it's like, if we lose a contract, it's to them. So it's really great that you can actually compare, that score and things with a particular competitor.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's more. Any other questions? That's more or less the crash course. All right.
That we're good.
Okay, sounds like you've got all of this recorded.
Yes. So it's the terrifying moment after the Zoom call where it's like recorded, right? Like it's recording.
Yeah. Oh, I can see it's recording. I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, I can see it. Just like I'm never convinced until I see the file on my on my desktop. Well, Matt, thank you so much for this. It's been super informative, super helpful, and I'm loving all of the new Frase features. I think that like this is the best update yet. I mean, I've been with you guys for a while now, and it's seen the updates. But I mean, this latest update really, I think it's been worth, I'm sure, the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into it.
Oh yeah. Well, we've got some other new stuff coming in. Maybe this week, maybe next. So keep an eye out.
Fantastic. Okay, Matt, well, I'll let you get on with your day. Thank you so much. And yeah, guys, we've covered content optimization in the course. We've covered Frase in the course. I'm going to be adding this, to the course content. And yeah, I mean, don't sleep on Frase. It's definitely, I've compared a lot of tools and nothing is compared to Frase. So yeah, thanks a lot, Matt.
Glad to hear.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.